Welcome to Kevin Makes Cool Things. I'm Kevin, and this is my lily wand. This isn't my biggest or flashiest project, but it actually took me over a year to make. Longer than any of my other projects so far. Why that was the case is, well, a little embarrassing for me, but hopefully amusing for all of you. I've made a few wands recently, and there's a good reason for that. I had leftover material. I had an idea for integrating real polished mineral samples into 3D prints, and decided to try it out using wands because it seemed like a good fit. To save some plastic and throw another material into the mix, I decided to make the straight section of the wand out of a bit of wooden dowel. I played around with different lengths, but 9 inches seemed like a good fit for a wand, so I went out and bought a 3-foot length of dowel and cut it into 4 pieces. I used one piece for my sodalite wand and another for my aventurine wand. I also had an idea to do a wand with an exposed wand core, so I made that too. I had one piece of dowel left, so I decided to do a 4th wand. At some point, I was randomly thinking about lily Potter, and how it would have been cool if her wand actually looked like a lily flower. It was just a passing thought, but it seemed like a cool concept, so I decided to go with it. The first thing I learned for this project, which most of you probably already know, is that there are multiple kinds of lilies. It took me quite a while to find out that the type I was thinking of was called a calla lily. I made this in OpenSCAD. Blender, or really any other modeling software, would have been a better choice, but I didn't use those at the time and I kind of liked the challenge, so I made this with a bunch of for loops and formulas. It was a terribly inefficient approach, but that's what made it fun. I finished this model back on September 23rd, 2020. When I first started making 3D models, I would include a small hole for bits of paperclip to go between the pieces to help align them. This was fine in theory, but it never worked well in practice. These holes didn't print properly in this project, so I just glued the pieces together without anything in the middle, which did not work out well. I sanded everything and attached the pieces together. I used 2-part epoxy to attach the dowel to this piece, which then went inside the flower. This meant the ugly join was deep inside the flower, where no one's going to see it. After everything was attached together, I applied some wood filler and sanded everything like usual. And like usual, things started to break. The first thing to break was the dowel in the attachment piece. I put this join deep inside the flower to hide my mistakes, but that meant that I didn't have a great view of what was going on. I didn't realize this wasn't seated properly during gluing, and without anything inside to strengthen the join, it was really weak. After I got that reattached, I covered it with more wood filler and started sanding again, and I fixed this by drilling a hole in each piece for a bit of nail to go between them and strengthen the join. This worked so well that I've used nails to help join all of my subsequent prints together. More epoxy, wood filler, and sanding later, I was ready to paint. This is where the delays really started. The first bit was easy. I put white on the handle and black on the rest. Afterwards, I added green to most of the handle, and I was at the finish line. I just needed to paint a small transition between the white flower and the green stem. I thought that would be easy. I was wrong. I tried again and again. Eventually, I stopped recording my attempts because I wasn't getting anywhere. I decided to apply Mod Podge to the black portion to keep it from getting dirty or scuffed while I was trying to paint this transition. Long story short, I was defeated by a 1/4-inch transition between green and white. I worked on other things and waited for inspiration to strike. Eventually, I manufactured some inspiration by watching YouTube tutorials on the topic, which recommended I use water to help with the blending. I used some 320 grit sandpaper to sand off my previous painting attempts so I had a smoother surface to work on. Unfortunately, this ended up driving white and green dust into the sealed black portion, which was yet another headache. The new transition approach kind of worked. I messed it up a few different times and eventually got something I was okay with. I didn't want to spend another year on this project, so I decided to cover the handle with Mod Podge and just call it quits. I let the handle dry in my highly technical drying rack before moving on to the cleanup. I used some sandpaper to scuff up the discolored black portion and then added another coat of black paint. A year and a day after finishing the model, on September 24th, 2021, I finished putting the last coat of Mod Podge on it. This isn't my favorite project, and it's not even my favorite wand, but I'm glad I went through and finished it. I made a ton of mistakes on this, but what I learned from it has helped me succeed in a lot of other projects that I've posted. The files are available on Thingiverse in case you want to make your own. I'll put a link in the video description. If you enjoyed the video, I hope you'll give it a like. If you want to support the channel and see more of my mistakes in the future, I hope you'll subscribe.